Good morning, everybody. KT here with Wise Images Photography, and today we are going to talk about white balancing. I don't know about you, but I have struggled with white balancing. Now, you can white balance on site, which is normally the preferred method, or you can white balance in Lightroom, and that is what I'm going to be showing you all today. So, without further ado, let's get going. One of the first things that I would go ahead and do is make sure that you are calibrating your monitor. I use the Spider 5 Pro to calibrate my monitor. I'm not going to go in depth into calibrating your monitor, but basically what calibrating your monitor does is it allows you to see the true color when you're editing of what you are going to get, especially when you go to send your work off to a professional lab to get it printed. And that would be like maybe like Miller's or maybe like Bay Photo. There's lots of other professional labs out there. If you use a lab that maybe, without trying to sound like I'm bashing people here, is, let's say for example, if you use a lab that does other things that photos are not exactly what they're all about. You may turn up and get like green photos or blue photos or different color photos than what you actually had planned on when you sent your work to that particular lab. So professional labs will have calibrated printers that if you calibrate your monitor, they will coincide. And then that way, when you do go ahead and take your stuff to print, it looks just like it did on your screen. Also, with that being said, if you use a professional lab to go ahead and print up your work, a lot of times when you first start with them, they will go ahead and let you send in some test images, and then they'll send you back a printed image so that you can go ahead and check it out and make sure that your monitor is properly calibrated. All right, so now that we've talked about calibrating your monitors, this is going to be something else that I don't know if you guys are going to think about. I personally have 3 pairs of photos. No, I have 3 pairs of glasses and apparently no brain. So basically I have this pair, which is fantastic for when I'm walking around. It's my trifocals and there's no blue light filter on it. Then I have another pair, and this is a pair that I use when I'm on the computer for my daily, just everything that I do, checking emails, all that kind of fun stuff. It's got intermediate, and it's basically bifocals with a blue light filter. Now, the reason why I don't want to use these glasses when I'm editing is because they put a color cast on whatever you're looking at. So therefore, I cannot get a true color when I have blue light filter. So keep that in mind when you are editing, that you need to have another pair. And these are my wonderful single focus with no blue light filter, so that I am seeing the true colors that I am seeing when I'm looking at the screen. So I don't have that weird tint that blue light filter glasses do tend to give when you are editing. All right, so now that we have gone ahead and talked about calibration, we've talked about blue light filter glasses, let's get into this white balancing. So why do we want to white balance? Well, we want to white balance because we're trying to get our whites to basically look white, okay? All right, so there are 3 different methods that I am going to go ahead and go over today. One is using a drop-down menu, 2 is going to be using a dropper, and 3 is going to basically be using the eyeball method. So let's go ahead and look at the drop-down menu. Now, before we even go into that, the camera sometimes has a hard time kind of gauging the temperature of light and stuff like that. So sometimes it kind of tricks the camera a little bit. So what I did was I actually brought in 4 different photographs that I was going to let us go ahead and check out today, because I wanted to let you guys see how different times of the day affected the light temperature. And this basically is, this very first image was taken basically at like 7:51. And I want to say at this time that I was shooting, I want to say sunrise was, I want to say it was around 7:30 in the morning. And so you can see here that we have a little bit of that orangish kind of color going on. And then as we go down the neck, we kind of have him in the shade here. And you still can kind of see a little bit of that leftover like blue light hour, right? Not very deep, but just enough for you to kind of notice it just a little bit. This next image, I'm going to go ahead and brighten this one up so that we can see it a little bit better. Now, this bird is not in the shade. He is getting that directional sunlight during the golden hour. And I want to say this one was taken about 10 minutes later. So I want to say this one was around the other one was at 7:50. This one was like at 8 o'clock. So just 10 minutes later. And you can still tell that there's a lot of intensity with this. And actually, when I was there, it felt more intense than what you guys are actually seeing right now. This is at 8:30. And we're still pretty much in the same area as well. I don't know what he was eating. It looks like maybe a salamander or something like that. Pretty cool. Look at that membrane over his eye, protecting his eye. So cool, so cool. All right, but anyways, all right, about to nerd out here. But needless to say, this one I want to say was around 8:30. And you can tell that we're starting to lose the golden hour. It's still there just a little bit, but you know, it's not super golden like it was here. Like the intensity was starting to change. Then we go ahead and we go into this particular image. This is shot around, I want to say it was like 10:30. And so here you can tell that, wow, the temperature has really changed a lot and we don't have that goldenness to the image. So the other thing you want to think about is, yes, we want to go ahead and white balance our photos, but at the same time, we also want to have that artistic free way to go ahead and adjust it to the flavor that we like. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at this first one. Now this first one's going to be hard, and the reason why it's going to be a little bit harder is just because you have half of this photo is in the sun and half of it's not in the sun. So let's go ahead and do the drop down menu. When I hit auto, it goes ahead and it really cools this photo down quite a bit. When I go to daylight, it warms it up just a little bit. When I go ahead and go to cloudy, now cloudy will warm it up definitely. Now, when I am actually photographing images, I found that having my camera in cloudy mode when I figured this out, it dramatically changed how the skin tones looked especially when I was photographing outside. I felt it made my subjects look so much better. So I actually shoot in cloudy, and because I shoot in cloudy, my photos will naturally look warmer when they're shot straight out of camera. So they already have a little bit of warmness to them. But I tell you what, guys, that really helped with my skin tones when I changed that one setting to cloudy, and boom. But I ended up keeping it just because I do like warmer images. Are warmer images always fitting? Not all the time, but that's okay. All right, so we went ahead and went to cloudy. We went to shade. Shade is going to go ahead and warm it up a little bit more. Tungsten is going to do the opposite. It is going to cool everything down drastically. And you can tell here that the bird is very, very blue. I don't quite think, I think we did almost hit the right spot a little bit earlier. Here, fluorescent is a little bit cooler as well. And then flash kind of warmed it up a little bit. So we're going to go back to as shot. So that is one method. Now, what you might want to do is you might want to put on automatic. This bird's looking pretty white, you know, like his feathers here where he's supposed to be white are looking pretty white. So that would be a good starting point. And then from here you can make it and season the photograph to your taste. All right, so let's say, for example, that you don't want to go ahead and use the drop-down menu. Let's say you want to use the eyedropper. All right, perfectly acceptable to use the eyedropper. Now, what you're going to do is you would want to go ahead and you're trying to find a neutral area. Neutral areas are going to be your gray or white areas. Now, one of the things that you'll notice is as I hover over my image in the upper left-hand corner, you will see here, it will change. So I'm changing the color here, right? You can see that it's changing, and so it kind of gives you an idea. You're like, yeah, all right, let's pick it. All right, well, look, okay, everything's looking blue, but guess what? My feathers are looking white. Yay! All right, so now we have a white balanced image. Now, once again, from here, you can season to taste. Me, personally, I like a warmer image, so I would say, I would go ahead and bump this up to, let's say 5,000. Let's do 7,000. Whoa, way too bright. So then maybe I want to go, okay, let's go 5,000. Go down by 5,000. Okay, all right, I'm liking it. Maybe I might say, but you know, I want it just a hair warmer, you know? Let's do 6,000, see what happens. Oop. Hit something else, 6,000. Too warm. Well, maybe, what if I went in the middle? That's great, fantastic. Looks good. All right, so now you've used the eyedropper as a method, and then you went ahead and you seasoned the picture to taste. Now, one of the things that I want to go ahead and mention is, look at this particular image. Now, if you look over here in the right-hand corner on your histogram, notice that there is just a little bit of this, what we call peaking. And that means that there is basically no data on the photo. That means it went like way crazy white, right? If you click on the arrow, notice that you'll see where it pretty much lost its data there, okay? Sometimes you can bring that back. Sometimes you can't. And that one was way too, there is nothing that I can do. That is complete loss of data right there. All right, so I tried to drag down my whites a little bit to try to fix that. I was using the histogram. I was in the whites column. I left click and I was dragging it down. And if you notice that it also correlated right here. Okay. All right, so that's a little bit of a loss of data there. So if you were to use, like, for example, the white balance, cannot set the white balance here, please click on a darker or neutral area. It's basically because there's no data there. So it's going to make it a little bit harder for you to use the picker tool. So that was the whole purpose of kind of bringing you into that one there. It preferred the darker kind of grayish area. And then once again, you season to taste. Now, this morning that I went out there, it was probably literally about that magnificent of the orange. I mean, it was just, it was crazy orange. But anyway, so that is your white balance. You can select with the tool. Remember that if you have something that's blown out, you're gonna have to find another area to pick. All right, so last but not least, let's go ahead and talk about the other method, which is what we call the eyeball method. And I've been telling you guys, season to taste, right? So you have your temperatures here. If you go to the far right, obviously you see that it makes it bright orange, more yellowish. When you go to the left, it cools everything down. And then you also have your tints. You can go to the right. Well, let me go and bring this more to the middle here. You go to the right, it's going to make your magentas go up. And if you go to the left, it's going to make your greens pop up. Okay, right? So when it comes to your temperature, you can definitely really go crazy with your temperature. You don't want to go over crazy that it looks too crazy manipulated, right? But you can make bigger jumps. Like you can move it by 1,000 or 500. That's what I mean. You can make bigger jumps. Whereas with the tint, you're either going to go into your positive integers or either your negative integers, your positive numbers, negative numbers, right? But you probably will not want to jump from like -14 up to 85. See how it just drastically changes it. What you want to do is like just little minute changes when it comes to your tint. You'll probably mainly spend more time up on the temperature side when you are using the eyeball method. All right, so a couple more things here. If you have not had a chance to grab how to step up your photography skills in 5 easy steps, please make sure that you go ahead and grab that so that way you do not miss out on how to improve your photography skills. just plug in your email address. I'll put a link below for you guys. All right, next up, I was talking to you guys a little bit about seasoning to taste. Also, too, you want to look at the scene of your image. Like, for example, in this case, this is not like an award-winning photo. This is like, I was literally on the side of the road. I am a Floridian. It's like, oh, we're driving and we see snow. We have to stop and take a picture of it. Some of y'all are like going, that's frost. That's not really snow, but that's okay. It would not make sense for me to warm this image up. It's snow. It's going to have that cold feel to it. So whenever you go ahead and you're working on your images, find your starting point, white balance it out, and then season it to taste, right? Okay. Here's another image. This one is of Beau. I didn't go drastically warm with it, but it has a hint of warm in it. You can tell that Beau's not overly, he's white and black, right? But you can tell that there's a little bit of that golden color to him. One, he's getting reflection off of the leaves, right? And then obviously, you guys know me, I like to warm up my images a little bit, so I warmed them up just a little bit. So keep that in mind, that even though you're going to white balance and you're going to make your whites white, you can also season to taste. Now, there's other things that you can do, and we can get more in depth into that later, about how you can pick your subject and this and that, and then change just the subject, what it looks like, and keep it white and everything else like that. Or you can keep it with the color, so that way it still looks to the flavor and the taste that you guys want. But anyways, that is another video. This one has gone a little bit longer than usual. And so at this point, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, remember that you are awesome. Have a fantastic rest of your day and the rest of your week. And I'll see you later, alligator.